Golem Project Origins. It's a familiar sound. The rhythmic thud of leather on vinyl, the grunt of exertion, the squeak of shoes on a mat. It's the soundtrack of self-improvement, of pushing your body to its absolute limit. In that moment, the world shrinks to just you and the bag, you and the dummy, an inert, unthinking object designed to absorb your punishment and ask for more. But what if it's not unthinking? What if, with every impact, every drop of sweat that soaks into its synthetic skin, it's doing more than just absorbing force? What if it's absorbing? This is where the whispers begin. In the darkest corners of online forums and in hushed conversations between disillusioned intelligence contractors. They talk about a program so secret, so deeply unsettling, it sounds like it was ripped from the pages of a science fiction horror novel. They call it the Golem Project. The name itself is a chilling choice, steeped in folklore. The Golem of Prague, a creature of clay brought to life by esoteric ritual to serve as a protector, but one that could, and did, grow beyond its creator's control. An inanimate object given a semblance of life. The parallel is as deliberate as it is terrifying. The core theory of the Golem Project is that advanced proprietary foam materials used in specialized training equipment, punching bags, grappling dummies, even the padding in certain tactical vests, are not inert at all. They are, according to the theory, a form of living memory sponge, a passive data collection device for intelligence agencies, most notably the CIA. The idea posits that these objects are designed to record a stunning array of biometric and environmental data, not with chips or wires, but within the very molecular structure of the material itself. So, where did such a wild idea come from? It didn't just appear out of thin air. It coalesced from a perfect storm of technological anxiety and fragmented clues. The earliest mentions trace back to the late 1990s on obscure message boards frequented by ex-military personnel and defense industry insiders. These weren't clear-cut leaks. They were cryptic posts, breadcrumb trails of speculation. Someone would mention a DARPA solicitation for impact-reactive polymers with non-volatile data retention. Another would talk about a black budget line item for sentient material research. These were easily dismissed as fantasy, but they planted a seed. Then came the so-called leaked documents. These were never verified, of course. They would appear on the dark web for a few hours before vanishing, heavily redacted, coffee-stained PDFs talking about inanimate field operatives and ambient data harvesting. They described a material that could record kinetic imprint data, essentially memorizing the unique signature of every strike, every fall, every impact. The conceptual leap is from advanced material science to clandestine surveillance. Why would an intelligence agency want to do this? The answer is as simple as it is horrifying. It's the perfect bug. A traditional listening device requires a power source, a transmitter, and it emits signals that can be detected. It's a liability. But an object that is its own recording medium? That's something else entirely. It's silent, passive, and utterly undetectable by conventional means because there's nothing to detect. The device, the dummy. Imagine the applications. A high-value target, a suspected terrorist, a political dissident. They all need to train. They have a gym in their compound, a dojo in their safe house. You can't get a bug in there, but you can manipulate the supply chain. You can ensure that the grappling dummy they order is a Golem Project asset. From that point on, the dummy becomes a silent witness. It's not just recording conversations through vibrations, though that's certainly part of the theory. It's building a comprehensive profile of the target. Every punch reveals their power, their speed, their technique, their stamina. Strike patterns could betray specific martial arts training, linking them to a certain training camp or instructor. The force of their impacts over time could indicate if they are getting stronger or weaker, perhaps due to injury or illness. The sweat that soaks into the material is a biometric goldmine. It contains DNA, of course, but also cortisol levels, indicating stress. It could reveal drug use, dietary habits, even the presence of certain diseases. The dummy would know more about the target's physical and psychological state than their own doctor. It becomes a complete, multi-layered intelligence file, all encoded into a block of seemingly simple foam, waiting for collection. This is the sinister genius of the Golem Project theory, turning the tools of strength and discipline into instruments of perfect, passive surveillance, creating a silent, unblinking spy in the most private of spaces. The question is, how much of this is paranoia, and how much is based on science that's closer to reality than we think? That's the chilling narrative, the ghost story whispered by spies and tech geeks. It paints a picture of a world where the very objects we trust are betraying us. But a story is all it is without evidence. To understand if the Golem Project is a genuine threat or just an elaborate urban legend, we have to peel back the vinyl skin of that training dummy and look at the science inside. We need to separate the properties of actual memory foam from the speculative, terrifying capabilities of a living memory sponge. Is there any real-world technology that could even begin to make this nightmare a reality?
Memory foam evidence. So, a secret program turning your gym equipment into a high-tech spy. It sounds like a plot from a James Bond film, a gadget cooked up by Q Branch. But let's ground ourselves in reality for a moment and dissect the core of this conspiracy, the foam. Could a material like this actually exist? To find out, we have to look at what we know is real and what remains, for now, in the realm of speculation. The foam in a high-end grappling dummy or punching bag is typically a type of viscoelastic polyurethane foam. We call it memory foam. Its memory is purely mechanical. It refers to its ability to deform under pressure and then slowly return to its original shape. This property is fantastic for absorbing impact and preventing injury, but it's not storing information in any meaningful way. It's like the memory of water in a pond after you skip a stone. The ripples fade and the information is lost. The Golem Project proposes something far more radical, a material with a permanent, high-fidelity memory. However, if we look at the cutting edge of material science, the line starts to blur. There are real-world technologies that, if combined and miniaturized, could theoretically pave the way for such a concept. First, let's consider piezoelectric materials. These are substances that generate a small electrical charge when subjected to mechanical stress. Every time you punch a dummy made with a piezoelectric matrix, it would create a unique voltage signature. A jab would have a different electrical footprint than a hook or a kick. A complex algorithm could then translate this stream of electrical data into a detailed log of the workout, capturing the force, frequency, and location of every single strike. This isn't science fiction. Piezoelectric sensors are used in everything from smartphone microphones to sonar equipment. Now, let's push it a step further with nanotechnology. Imagine embedding trillions of nanoscale sensors, or nanites, directly into the foam's polymer matrix. These aren't just simple pressure sensors. We could be talking about chemical nanites that analyze sweat for hormonal and DNA data, or thermal nanites that map heat signatures to detect fatigue. The biggest challenge for nanites is power. But what if they could harvest their own energy? The field of kinetic energy harvesting is very real. The constant impacts on the dummy could provide all the power these microscopic spies would ever need. They could lie dormant for months, then activate and record the moment the first punch lands. Some theorists even point to vaguely worded patents filed by major defense contractors for things like self-organizing data substrates or impact-responsive polymeric networks. These patents are often dense and filled with technical jargon, but they hint at research into materials that do much more than just sit there. They describe materials that react, adapt, and, perhaps, even remember. But this is where we have to pump the brakes and address the monumental logistical hurdles that make the Golem Project lean more towards legend than reality. The single biggest problem is data retrieval. Okay, so the dummy has spent 6 months recording every detail of a target's life. Now what? How do you get that terabyte of data out of the foam? Does a CIA agent in a tracksuit have to sneak in and plug a USB cable into the dummy's ear? That seems unlikely. A wireless transmitter would defeat the entire purpose of a passive, undetectable device. It would scream its presence to any counter-surveillance sweep. The only plausible method in the theory is that the memory is stable, and an operative would have to physically swap out the Golem dummy for a regular one, taking the original to a lab to have its data extracted. This is an incredibly high-risk operation, far more dangerous than planting a conventional bug. Then there's the signal-to-noise ratio problem. A gym is a chaotic environment. How does this smart foam differentiate between a deliberate, data-rich punch and someone accidentally leaning against the bag? How does it filter out the vibrations from the music system, the dropped weights, or the cleaning crew's floor buffer? Without an incredibly sophisticated onboard processor, which would again require significant power, the data collected would be a messy, unusable jumble of noise. The sheer complexity of creating a material that can intelligently filter and store only relevant information without any external guidance is a challenge that likely remains far beyond our current capabilities. So, where does that leave us? The Golem Project is a perfect conspiracy for our time. It feeds on our anxieties about ubiquitous surveillance and technology that has become so advanced it feels like magic. It takes real, verifiable scientific concepts, piezoelectrics, nanotechnology, smart materials, and stretches them to their most paranoid conclusions. While the idea of a sentient spying punching bag is almost certainly an urban legend, it serves as a powerful metaphor. The technology to embed surveillance into everyday objects is no longer science fiction. Our phones, our smart speakers, our cars, they are all collecting data on us constantly. The Golem Project simply gives that anxiety a physical form, a straw man, or rather, a foam man, that we can punch. It's a chilling thought experiment about the ultimate invasion of privacy. So, the next time you're in the gym, landing that perfect combination, just for a second, wonder what the bag thinks of it.